If you've ever made a selection in Photoshop and noticed that the edges look rough, jagged, or just a little too harsh, this video is going to help. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how to smooth edges in Photoshop 2026 using the Select and Mask workspace, so your cutouts look cleaner, more professional, and much more natural. This is a simple technique that works great for portraits, product shots, and any image where you want cleaner selections without spending hours cleaning every edge by hand. And if this tutorial helps you out, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more easy Photoshop tutorials just like this. All right, let's jump in. First, you need to make your initial selection. You can use any selection tool you like, depending on what you're working with. For example, the Quick Selection tool is great if your subject has clear contrast against the background. The Object Selection tool is also really useful when Photoshop can detect the main subject automatically. The goal here is simply to get a solid starting selection around the subject you want to isolate. Don't worry if the edges are not perfect yet, because that's exactly what we're about to fix. Once your subject is selected, look up at the top options bar and click Select and Mask. If you prefer keyboard shortcuts, you can also press Ctrl, Alt, and R on Windows, or CMD, Option, and R on Mac. This opens the Select and Mask workspace, which is where Photoshop gives you more control over refining your selection edges. Now, before you start adjusting anything, it helps to change your view so you can clearly see what's happening around the edges. In the top right of the workspace, find the View Mode option. Switch it to On Black or Overlay, depending on which view helps you see the edge details better. On Black is especially useful if your subject has light edges, while Overlay can help you inspect the boundary against the background more clearly. The main thing is to choose a view that makes rough edges easy to spot, because you can't smooth what you can't see. Now we're ready for the real cleanup. On the right-hand side, scroll down to the Global Refinement section. This is where Photoshop gives you the main controls for improving the edge quality of your selection. We're going to work through 3 sliders in order: Smooth, Feather, and Contrast. Start with Smooth. This slider is the one that helps round out sharp corners and remove those jagged, uneven bits along the edge. Slowly drag Smooth upward until the selection begins to look cleaner. In many cases, a value somewhere between 5 and 15 works well, but the exact number depends on the image and how rough the original selection was. The key here is not to overdo it. If you push Smooth too far, you can lose too much detail, and the edge may start to look unnatural. So increase it gradually and watch the result closely. Next, move to Feather. This adds a very small amount of softness to the edge, so the transition doesn't look harsh or cut out. A light feather value, usually around 0.5 to 2.0 pixels, is often enough. You want just enough softness to blend the edge pixels naturally, but not so much that the subject starts to look blurry or faded. If you're working with a subject that needs crisp details, keep Feather very low. If the edge is a little too sharp after smoothing, a tiny amount of feather can make the cutout look much more realistic. After that, adjust Contrast. This one is important because once you add smoothing and a little feathering, the edge can sometimes become too soft. Contrast helps bring back definition, so the selection edge stays clean and sharp instead of blurry. Increase contrast slightly, usually somewhere around 10 to 20%, and you should see the edge tighten up again. The idea is to balance all 3 settings together. Smooth removes the jagged look, Feather softens the transition, and Contrast brings back crispness. When used together properly, they create a much more natural-looking edge. Take a moment to zoom in and inspect the selection. If the edge still looks rough, increase Smooth a little more. If it starts to look too soft, reduce Feather or raise Contrast slightly. Small adjustments can make a big difference, so don't rush this part. Once you're happy with how the edge looks, go down to Output settings at the bottom of the workspace. Under Output 2, choose Layer Mask. This is the safest and most flexible option because it keeps your original image intact while applying the Refine selection as a mask. That means you can always go back and edit the mask later if needed. After choosing Layer Mask, click OK to apply the changes. Photoshop will now create your refined selection with smoother edges, and your subject should look much cleaner against the background. And that's it. You've just learned how to smooth edges in Photoshop 2026 the easy way. This is one of those skills that seems small, but it makes a huge difference in how polished your final edits look. If you found this tutorial helpful, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next Photoshop walkthrough. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.